Sonic Racing Cross Worlds has become something of an obsession of mine since its release. As someone who's chosen not to get a Switch 2 for reasons beyond the scope of this video, I didn't really have a competitive kart racer to sink my teeth into that was both active and felt as good to drive as this game. I've been experimenting with all sorts of characters, vehicles, and gadgets, having now found a build that I find comfortable as I've been steadily climbing the legend ranks. But there's one aspect of the game that I think is far more important than your choice of vehicle, and just as important as loading up on useful gadgets that you'll get value out of every race and playing near their strengths. Strategizing. This video is going to go over general strategy that I use in my races to consistently hit the top half of the results screen, as well as valuable tips about item management that should be applicable regardless of what vehicle type you prefer. Let's chat about it. If you've played the game long enough to have unlocked Supersonic, or even earlier than that, you'll notice that no two tracks really play the same. You can't race Chow Park the same way you race Kronos Island, and you can't race either of them the same way that you race Aqua Forest. If you're looking to climb the ranks past Legend 9, you can't just coast on being halfway competent. You'll have to learn every track in Cross World to the point where you know exactly what to do every time they come up, ideally on a per lap basis. That might sound intimidating, but don't worry, I'll give you a couple of really good examples to work from my own races in Legend lobbies, and please bear in mind also that no two races will ever be the same. You will need to adapt your strategy to what's going on around you and how the race is going, as well as react on the fly to the Lap 2 Cross World, fitting that into the big picture. I highly recommend going through time trials and at least getting A rank on every single course. Not for anything else, you will be getting like a big amount of race tickets if you do so, and unlock a whole bunch of music for your trouble, but it's the best way that you can learn the optimal routes for each course. And it's a good way of really indicating just how well you've managed to learn every single track in the game. Let's start with the very first course most people will play, E Stadium. This course is characterized by having simple, forgiving turns, a generous amount of rings, and powerful off-road shortcuts that can be used to snag several positions during the crucial Lap 3, as well as a hilarious game of chicken in the form of the shortcut ring in the ramp section. Lap 3 is always the most important part of any race, but it's even more important on E Stadium because of how many things you can do to increase your chances. My general strategy for this course is as follows. Gather rings and max out on them if possible on Lap 1. Take wide lines, avoid the pack, and hold on to your items as long as possible to defend against boxing gloves that might compromise your ring count this early. By the scripted jump ramp, I'm already past 50 rings. I have 80 entering the ramp section, and by the time we reach the turn at the bottom, I'll have maxed out my speed boost and I'm starting to build my buffer as I'm running 130 max rings. Unfortunately, all of my item boxes got sniped by someone else as I approached each of them, so I'm still defenseless heading into Lap 2. But that's okay, because now it's time to enter phase 2 of my strategy, getting a shortcut item and a defense item for Lap 3, while once again trying to avoid confrontation in the pack. In this case, we do not need any specific item. We just need something that allows us to take the off-road cut right at the end, and something that allows us to defend ourselves against the onslaught of items that will be happening in the final stretch. Lap 2 begins. It's a random track with a Frenzy, potentially very good for anyone who's running Ultimate Charge if they get the 1 in 3 shot of getting Drift Charge Frenzy. Immediately, I see its Kraken Bay with Boost Ring Frenzy, a very neutral Frenzy with a Hazard Intense layout. Here, I'm going to prioritize finding a defense item and try to keep my ring count from dipping below 80, while taking the best racing line I can through each of the boost rings. I roll a Tornado, basically an ideal pull right away, and surge forward into 3rd place. I see a Warp Ring open above me. I don't hear the Dark Chow's chuckle, and it can't be a wait since I'm being affected in 3rd. So I pop the Tornado and manage to dodge the slime coming out, taking out one of my rivals and getting into the 1st position, entering the boat section, which I chose because I find it easier to dodge the tentacles there than on the other path, which also has a huge jump that's kinda slow. I play the rest of the Cross World trying to keep my lead, and roll another Tornado, extremely lucky pull from the top spot. I veer off to get another item behind it, Magnet, not terrible, but not exactly what I need. Lap 3 begins and I'm still in the front. A Slicer is after me, so I pop the Tornado to keep myself from slowing down, grab another item, and line up for the grass cut using the Super Turbo Pad, taking it as tight as I can. I adjust my racing line after the jump to hit every turbo pad I can, and keep cornering as close to the wall as I can. I get to the shortcut ring uncontested while trying to get a cheeky hit with someone with the boxing glove, since this is a highly contested line and I want to build my lead. But I don't get a hit. I dish my magic shortly after, and do get a hit, and grab the double item right after 2 people pass me, giving me a much better chance of pulling the 2 items that will win me the race. In this case, I get Omochao with a tornado behind it. Unless Boom Boo has anything to say about it, this race is mine. I get Omochao to allow me to cut across the grass and use my tornado to protect myself and take Tails out. And with one last drift boost, I cross the finish line with a decisive win. This is just one example of how I approach the game, and it doesn't always get me a winning position. I consistently end up in the top 5 most races using these principles, but sometimes things just don't go to plan. Here's an example. We're going to take a look at another track you're going to see a lot of when you're racing online, Kronos Island. We all know that it's entirely decided by the final turn, with one of the most powerful shortcuts in the game that's even faster when you don't use a boost item going through it. Everyone in Legend should know this, so we're going to need to get through it with a degree of certainty beyond what we needed for E-Stadium. What we'll need is going to be a Boost Wisp, Laser, or Monster Truck, and if we have a Boost Wisp, it needs to be backed by a shield for complete invincibility, ideally. Again, my whole race will be revolving around gaining rings, then securing the right items, then taking the best lanes I can to put myself in the winning position. 70 rings by the first item set. So far, so good. I'm maxed out as we go up the spiral, holding onto a boxing glove in case I get targeted and need to block. But I get shoved off and end up far toward the back. Since this happened so early, I can now roll for much more powerful items to make my comeback later. Monster Truck. I can use that to take the ending shortcut and end up blocking a slicer at the same time. Lap 2 begins, Digital Circuit this time. I make it into second place with a tornado, and King Boom Boo takes out the first place racer. Thankfully, it's not blocking the optimal line. I get a magnet behind it, but I don't think that I'm going to be able to win with these. It's not a shortcut item, and Tornado isn't foolproof defense. I'll hold on to them as long as I can, but I'm looking to chain these into the next item sets to get something better. Lap 3 begins and I dump both my items aiming for the double box, but it doesn't respawn in time for me to refresh my items. I'm extremely vulnerable in the crucial lap 3. A slicer takes me out and the slime slows my ability to get back up to speed. I fall down to a lower position, but again, that's fine. We still have time, and it's giving me better odds to pull the winning ticket I need. The next double item set I managed to grab is Laser and Boost Wisp. Pretty much perfect. I opt not to take the off-road cut since it's not that crucial, and I'd like to use this laser to keep myself safe if I need to. I burn it on the path with no barriers to keep myself from falling off, and get up to second right as another King Boom Boo takes first place out. I have the Boost Wisps and just need another item behind it to secure a good spot. Magnet is basically a dud, but since I'm up at the front, I have a good chance of being safe without a defense item. I take the cut and get overtaken at the line, but this was still good enough to make it into third. I think going over races like these play-by-play and walking people through my thought process is the best way I can really explain how I want to play, because it is very flowchart-y is probably the best way I can say it. While at the end of the day, since this is still an item-based racing game, I will still end up sometimes getting completely Mario Karted and tossed toward the back with nothing that I can really do about it. But there really is no certainty in this game. Even if you're a believer in Ultimate Charge and just maxing out as many good drift gadgets as possible, there are still going to be races where you get absolutely bodied. And the people who know how to use their items well know when to catch you and put you into a bottom position. This is why I am very much a proponent of trying to be flexible with your playstyle. Having the ability not only to hold the lead, but also the ability to make a comeback are both crucially important skills, and you can't just rely on one or the other. If you rely entirely on rolling good items to win, you're going to be at the mercy of RNG in order to get your wins. Sure, you can potentially end up brute forcing that RNG by just staying in the back, but if you don't harass the front runners, then you're not going to be able to keep them from making a huge breakaway, and your comeback won't matter at that point. Likewise, if you try to use front running above all else, you'll never get the powerful items that you need in order to secure the top spots in tracks like Kronos Island and East Stadium, or even Ocean View, for instance, where these massive off-road shortcuts are just so important that you really can't ignore them. Sure, the strategy might work if you're really good at, like, say, Chow Park or Colored from Mall, but not every track is going to be like that. You are going to run into a track that your primary strategy doesn't work. So again, you need to be flexible. You need to know what to do when things go wrong. You need to know what to do under any circumstance. You need to pay attention to what's going on around you. Take wide lines if you think you're in danger. Go for rings if you're low. Roll for the items that give you the best chances to win. And don't just randomly take people out because you are an agent of chaos. Chances are, if you use your items frivolously, you are going to just lose. Imagine you just roll an item at the first item set, and you take someone out right then and there. At the second item set, that person you took out just rolled a laser, and they have a shield behind it. And they're good enough at taking racing lines to make a comeback without using those items. Now that decision that you made to just take someone out ended up being your undoing. This is why I am always a proponent of play smarter, not harder. If you want to play the game like this, I will not stop you, but I very much believe that if you want consistency and you want to keep your races in your hands, you need to play with an open mindset like this. And I hope that anyone who is watching this video ends up doing that. That's all I really wanted to say for this video. Sorry that I ended up going months of radio silence on this channel, but I ended up not really having too many concrete ideas and motivation in order to work on YouTube videos, even though, like, I really appreciated that my previous video ended up being as well received as it did. I know it kind of feels weird to jump from talking about an oddity in Crash Team Racing to essentially putting forth, like, a kind of tutorial video on Crossworlds, but I can't focus on one thing at a time. I just like talking about video games I like, and that's kind of just going to be the central theme of the channel. You're not going to exactly know what game I'm going to talk about whenever I do release a video, but I promise you that it's going to be interesting. At least I hope it is. I just like talking, and I like sharing things that I know, and I want to share my passion with playing competitive games and the weird stuff that ends up happening as a result of focusing in on them. I don't know, video games are fun. That's just it. I'm rambling at this point, and I have been off script for like the past like paragraph and a half. So thanks for watching. I set up a coffee. I had a link to it in the last video but didn't draw attention to it, but like I will appreciate it if you decide to drop a tip in there for some reason. Like maybe you like the video enough to do it or whatever. You don't have to, but I really would appreciate it if you do. What I think is more important though, just like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all the stuff that makes the YouTube algorithm go burr, share the video around, and I especially hope that this advice is actually useful to you, if you are a Crossworlds enjoyer like myself. If not, and you think that I'm giving bad advice, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but this is just how I am. Yeah. I don't know how to end videos.